Hey everybody, welcome into the Creed of Crypto live stream. How are you doing? I am Broke Boy Crypto. As you can see, my actual face is not here for now, but it will be, I believe, shortly. Here with my friend and co-host, as always, Crypto Ewok. And we got a good one for you tonight, folks. If you take a look at the thumbnail, PulseChain. Are we headed to the promised land this bull market? Things are popping off right now. We got Bitcoin soaring to new all-time highs. I got bad news for everybody right now. We have a major Bitcoin pullback to under 90K right now. So sorry about that. We're a little bit down right now. But welcome into the chat. I can't see it myself. Ewok will probably shout out some people here in a moment, but appreciate you guys being here tonight. Smash the like on the way in. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, absolutely insane, this market right now, especially Bitcoin, not really anything else at the moment, but things are going crazy after the Trump winning the election, of course, last Tuesday. So, Ewok, how are you this fine Wednesday evening?
I'm doing good, man. Love the prices. In fact, Bitcoin, I think, back up over 90,000 now. So,
okay.
Gonna welcome in some of these folks here. Valiant Lowkey, good to see you. Viper Styles, the Rat, DJ and Moon Boy in the house. We've got Hex Fisherman listening from work. Medi Stang, Rocket Mob. Brownies, DJ Cryptomatic, good to see you finally catching us live. That's all we've got so far. Welcome in, everybody. Smash the like on your way in and subscribe if you haven't. You know, obviously, I think most of these folks have. I think we have subscribers only can comment. So
yeah, we do.
Good to know you all are supporting. We appreciate it so much. And yeah, let's jump right into these charts. Let's take a look at them.
Yeah, just crazy what we're seeing with Bitcoin right now. I mean, we saw it just barely peek its head out to a new all-time high kind of during the election last week whenever Trump was pulling ahead. Now, of course, I mean, we're in a whole, you know, the sky is the limit. I mean, it can do whatever it wants to do basically right now. And seemingly with Bitcoin, it's like every single pullback is this short-lived little, you know, bitch pullback, and then it just starts to take off again, just showing like just crazy strength. ETH has, of course, moved up because, you know, everything kind of is right now, but its ratio is still garbage. It did go up to 0.04. I just saw a bit earlier. It's back down to like 0.035. So its ratio is still down, although the price has gone up to about 3,400. But yeah, just taking a look at Bitcoin right now, Ewok, you and I were talking about this the other day, just how crazy it's been looking. You admitted like you didn't think we'd even get here by the end of the year. I don't know how I really felt about it. I mean, 90K kind of seemed like a stretch by the end of the year, but pretty insane that this is where we are. So what do you make of this breakout? And if we end up touching on it here, that's fine. But we're going to talk about whether this cycle kind of seems more like 2017 or 2021 based on like your experiences before, because this wild move right now just seems familiar to me from 2017 a little bit. But yeah, anyway, what do you think about where we're at right now?
Well, I forget what I had said, but I think this is where I thought we would be end of year. I thought 85, 90,000 would be, you know, the target. And, you know, it still may be, you know, we're going to get some pullbacks. We're going to get some sell-offs. Like you said, though, you know, this little red candle is minuscule compared to these, you know, last three. Now we're on the daily chart. These three weren't that big, but, you know, right away on the day after president was announced, you know, we went from 69,000 all the way up to 76. So, you know, right there was a $7,000-8,000 move, and it's been doing those type of moves ever since. You know, there's two candles that are, you know, quite sizable. You go from 80 here to 89 on this one of these last candles, and you know, there's just, it seems to be that the market is approving of what's happened. You know, there's really no other way to put it. People have gotten very bullish very quickly. You know, and I do hear this sentiment of why isn't PulseChain moving? I don't understand what's going on. Well, you have to remember that, yes, and you know, we can compare it to 2017, obviously Hex, PulseChain, they weren't around back then. But as far as Bitcoin goes, you look at these moves back then, and there were some crazy parabolic, upward movements. So, you get into where it technically started early 2017. And, it was January, it was $750 roughly, right around there, $700-800. And it ran all the way to 20K. So,
Yeah.
that was a sizable move. You got a 20x from the lows. So, and that wasn't even the low. I guess it was for that year. But so yeah, but the candles that I'm seeing though are more than what a lot of these were. You look at these daily candles, and they were just every day was a little bit up, a little bit up. I'm already seeing a lot more sizable movements. More like this one, and like this is one of the bigger candles that I've seen, and you're talking 2,200 up to 2,900. I mean, obviously the volume and the market cap was a lot smaller then, so roughly a sizable candle, but at the same time, now we're talking moving $8,000 in a day. 2020 was let's get back to that, where we got 20 when it started here in March of 20. That was there weren't very many big candles there either. Like, so I mean, for what we're seeing right now, some of these candles are just massive. And it does show the picture more of the institutional money that has now entered the game. So, I really think that is the product of some of these crazy moves that you're seeing. But yeah, no, it's looking good. It's looking bullish. But, when things go this parabolic in this short of time, beware, there's going to be some people taking profits at some levels. There's some traders out there that will dump massive bags hoping for a pullback to buy in and swing trade it to get the markets moving the way they want. So just keep that in mind. We may end up here at the end of the year. But now there's people saying we could be well over 100,000 if it continues at this rate. Yes, but will it? That's a lot of momentum this early in the cycle. We almost need to have some pullbacks to keep it a little bit healthier, I think.
I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, while the bull market's going to be crazy, like this kind of up only that we've seen over this last week is usually not something that will last just weeks and weeks and weeks on end like this, especially like you said. I mean, zooming out, even though it's so great what we're seeing right now after so much shitty news for 3 years, like this is still November of 24. It still is not 2025, even though we've had bullish piece of news after bullish piece of news, especially if you're within the PulseChain ecosystem. I mean, other than some prices, you're pretty much floating on cloud nine with some of the things that have happened narrative wise over the last couple of weeks. And you just made a great point, Ewok, about talking about people that are saying, like, why isn't PulseChain moving? Why blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, neither is Ethereum. Like, it moved up again. We just mentioned it, but I mean, it moved up USD wise. Yes, it's moved up from whatever, like 2,700 to 33, 34, but the ratio is still hot garbage. So,
right.
I mean,
and I didn't finish my thought on that. Now that you say it, why isn't PulseChain moving? Well, everything's delayed, right? Bitcoin is your first mover. Bitcoin is your old faithful that's been around forever. It's the one that gets the momentum first. It will then switch. Ethereum will take over. That ratio will catch up eventually. And at that point, you'll see the tides kind of changing, right? Ethereum will take over. It'll close that ratio gap. Once you get a Bitcoin top, historically, 28 days later is your Ethereum top. At that point, people take profits. They start rotating into altcoins. Then altcoins have their season. It's a very delayed thing. But the thing you need to watch for is with PulseChain, you could go up it'll say, well, Bitcoin's moving like crazy, not seeing anything. And the next thing you know, you blink your eyes and you've 2 or 3x'd very, very slowly. It's a subtle creep up there. But it will happen. And, once Ethereum does top out, people do rotate into other things. So that's the time that we see the parabolic run-ups like crazy in altcoins. And that's kind of what, I'm expecting to see again. Until it doesn't happen, you can expect the same thing that happened the last couple cycles. And it's the same until it isn't, right?
Yeah, I think that's all that we can really look to. And it is funny, like, these things turn on such a dime. And then, people's forecasts and things like that change. Like you just said, people talking about, 100K Bitcoin by the end of the year is definite now. I mean, it may not. I mean, you look back to March of this year, like when things were pumping just overall in crypto, and people were like, oh, here we go and everything. And it's like, that was so short lived. And then it was just kind of crap for the rest of the year. So I'm not saying, I mean, obviously we're getting better and better as we get towards 2025, but we may look back to this week after the election and be like, oh, wow, things really just popped off there. We went up to 93K or whatever it was and cooled off a bit after that. I don't want to be a wet blanket. I'm not trying to throw cold water on anything. Just looking at another point of view, and we still have a long, long way to go, obviously, here through this bull market. You just mentioned, like, sure. We're starting to see more people talk about 250K BTC again. Like, that's what this cycle is going to get to. Richard Hart obviously tweeted about it before. We just saw Crypto Kobe, who's like pretty sure a crypto billionaire, tweeting, or at least hundreds of millions, tweeting about it the other day. Do you think, just as a final point on like Bitcoin and the cycle overall for its potential, like, do you think that people are just getting out over their skis right now because we're seeing this pump and all of a sudden you're seeing these predictions come out of the woodwork? Or, I don't know. I mean,
they always do. I remember last year they were calling, Richard had called the top at 65, 63, whatever it was. And people were still calling for over 100,000 then. So, it happens every cycle. People are always pushing that narrative that it's going to go a lot higher than expected. They want people to buy their bags. That's usually what you're seeing when people talk that way. I think people are kind of getting ahead of themselves. There's nothing wrong with putting a target out there this early. But when you start to see things roll over and that time in the cycle, has arrived, and people are still calling for $1 million Bitcoin, that's the time that you want to kind of watch out. So I see you've arrived. Hang on, let me add you here.
There we go.
We'll remove your other one. I removed your other one. We good?
Boom. Yep. Yeah, you got me?
Yep, gotcha.
Sweet.
Nice.
Okay.
Technical difficulties. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, little impromptu computer reboot right before we went on the air there. So if you liked AI Pikachu version of me, let me know. I can throw that back up for you guys.
You did get a Pika friendship confirmed from Valiant Loki there.
Oh, so. Beautiful. Thank you, Valiant Loki. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of where we are with Bitcoin and ETH right now. I mean, we need ETH to freaking pick it up, man. And we're going to see it happen. I mean, it's just continuing to be, very low compared to Bitcoin. But let's go ahead and turn our attention to the PulseChain ecosystem now. And we do have, and it has moved. I mean, people might be like, why are we like at sack rate because Bitcoin's popping off like this? I mean, it has moved up from where it was. Don't forget, I mean, it was at like 4 zeros and a 4.2 just about a week and a half ago or something like that. So we have seen the ecosystem move up. Pulse is at 4 zeros and a 5.6. We got PulseX 4 zeros 3.2. Incentive token 219 right now. Hex is at 001885 and eHex at pretty much 002. So
no, not 00. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Shoot, my bad. Yeah.
Don't scare people.
Well, I wasn't ahead of myself. That would have been backwards actually for the main Hex. But yeah, Hex at almost 2 cents. So we have still seen things move up. I understand people are frustrated because they're seeing all the actions just happening with Bitcoin right now. But we are still seeing things move up. So what do you kind of make of where we're at with Pulse right now? again, narrative wise, and with what's been going on over the last couple of weeks, obviously I'm talking about, I don't know if I'm still frozen or if that was real or what's going on here. But I'm talking about like the motion to dismiss hearing being like largely insanely bullish, all the things that we kind of heard come out of that. Trump gets elected, which is great for the entire industry, obviously. But yeah, what do you want to look at the chart of here, Ewok? I guess we should at least kind of look at Pulse, but where do you think we are here? Is there any remote chance of revisiting the lows again? I mean, I can't even imagine that happening at this rate, but what do you think about where we're at here?
I can't imagine it either. Obviously there's always a possibility that could go back to touch um this 4.544 level. I think this is probably the last level of support to see first. If it busts through there, then there's several layers that it could go down. Then the 4 zeros and a 4 would probably be the next stop. But no, I don't see, when you say revisit the lows, you're talking down here in the quad 03 area. I don't see it. I don't see it. I think there's enough bullish sentiment out there that people are kind of looking to scoop up some things at some hefty prices and get good discounts. I just don't see it going that far unless there is. I never say never. There could always be a whale out there that just gets frustrated that it's not moving fast enough for them, and they decide to dump a big bag. Well, that would be great. I mean, in terms of getting it for the discount, and not allowing them to see the ride up in price. But I think at this point, most of the weekends have been washed out. I think most of the players that are in it from here do have some conviction, some long-term beliefs. And I mean, other than the casual pullbacks, I don't see it going much lower than this 4.5 level, 4 zeros, 4.5. We're at 5.5, almost 5.6 now. 4.056. So, I mean, I think we've experienced the worst of it. I was watching Axis on RH Max's show, and he laid the very first Ethereum chart up over this, and it looked really good. Like, I mean, this is a completely different market now. There's so many more things out there, but it is following things fairly well. And from where we're at now and where it could go, we could be back at SAC level, in no time. It really would take that much to get there, because SAC level is 3 zeros and a 1, right? So I mean, it's not even all-time high levels when you're talking.
No, that'd be like 3x SAC rate, actually. Almost.
So I mean, we only need a 2x from here to get back to SAC. We probably will bounce around that area a little bit. It's just one of those mental levels that we have to break through again. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of resistance. I think once those green candles get up there and start chopping, we get through there, it could take off pretty quickly. And yeah, I think this is 2.8 is 2.8x of SAC rate is our all-time high, basically. There's a lot of good here on the horizon. Like I said, I think we've seen the worst. Obviously we don't want to come back down and make a lower low. But if it does pull back in this range, again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's healthy. It keeps going as long as we're seeing some movement up, which I think we will.
Yeah, and actually, I asked you about returning to the lows. I mean, contrarily, you went away from it, but yeah, just looking at where we're at right now, I mean, there's a lot of room to just continue to run up when it comes to Pulse. I mean, it seems very clear that we're going to head up there pretty quick. And we talked about that, like that knee jerk thing, that whenever it starts to move, you're really not going to have much of a chance anymore. So, I mean, I'm acting like every moment that we still get below sack right here, just funneling everything I can to the ecosystem, obviously. So let's look at the pulse X to pulse ratio
This
here.
is the pulse X pulse ratio. It's still looking good. It's still in an uptrend. Like it hasn't broken that uptrend in quite some time. I'm just checking through all the prices here, looking at them, like to kind of do it while we're streaming and take a look. This one's chopped around too. I mean, it's just lots of accumulation is what it's looking like to me, especially here on incentive. We don't have any of these big sellers anymore. I know there are some net sellers out there, the people that are just, doing it to profit. They've provided liquidity just to sell. And we know there are some of those out there. You can tell by the volumes increasing a little bit, not too much. And then as far as Hex goes, I think Hex is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of upswing. We've broken past this previous high here at the 1.9 zone. It did pull back a little bit, but I think this is another resistance level as of right now. It did break through it a little bit and then pull back. So I think once we can get out of this zone and take off, there's really no stopping until about 3 cents would be one of the last levels, and then that would be our all-time high for PHEX anyway. So yeah, no, things are looking good. The ratio is a little worrisome. We're almost at 9-1, which seems
worrisome or not worrisome.
Not. I mean, I'm not.
Kind of easy to buy EHEX here, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, most people won't, but
Yeah, I mean, it could take off a lot. It could close that ratio very quickly. I mean, a couple big buys. There isn't near as much liquidity, other than it's. I think we're down to just under $1 million worth on the sell wall from BankX. So
yeah,
just under $1 million. But this could just chop sideways for a while, and people are nervous about it. But we'll eat through it. I mean, I'm not too concerned. Once things start to really pick up on this side of things, I think we'll be okay.
I think so too. And not like it's been the main thing I'm DCAing into, but I've definitely been buying a little bit of EHEX every time I'm DCAing right now. So some people, I know that pisses them off, but that's exactly kind of why you want to buy it, I think. So,
right.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely see that thing close a little bit. So, I mean, yeah, the ecosystem is definitely looking bullish. I mean, we have moved up, but yeah, to our points earlier, Bitcoin has kind of been the unicorn right now as things have gotten bullish after the election. Even Ethereum really hasn't charged forward yet. So we just got to wait for those things to kind of coalesce. And I think it's definitely going to happen. So, yeah, bullish times ahead for sure for the ecosystem. Let's see where we want to go next. Because we do have a lot of good pieces of news. Axis, yeah, as long as you're good with it, I think we're going to be good with it. So next Wednesday, the 20th, Axis Alive, yeah, should be on the air again. So should be good stuff. So let's turn to this real quick. So with everything happening with Trump right now, so he's in. I just saw it today. He was in the Oval Office. He's talking to Biden and stuff. They're shaking hands, kissing each other, making out. Everything's all good now. But there's real rumors starting to circulate, and even calling them rumors or acting like this is such an unbelievable thing really isn't even the best way to look at this, I don't think anymore, but like real rumors that Gary Gensler could be stepping down voluntarily by the end of this year, actually, from the SEC. We've had the discussion before about like, does Trump actually have the authority to fire him? We had that discussion last week, and it's like, well, no, not really, but kind of, because he can do this and that. But we've seen other SEC chairs and leaders in the past simply step down because of opposing leadership. And Trump pretty much represents the biggest amount of opposing leadership that Gary Gensler could ever have in office. So we are starting to see that now, whether, it's, trust me, bro type source or whatever it is, we are seeing that Gensler himself could just leave, or maybe as we get into 2025, it would just prove that he needs to leave anyway. But again, not that much of a stretch. So I want to know what you do think of this EWalk, or what a timetable could be for that. What it could mean, obviously, for the case with PulseChain and the corrupt SEC, which is already looking pretty good. But how huge would this be for crypto overall? And how do you, like, if we were betting on it, what do you think the SEC reform would look like? I mean, we've had multiple politicians lobbying for like a reformation to where it's just a panel without a leader. We've had speculation of Hester Pierce taking over, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, what do you think in terms of the likelihood of Gensler obviously being gone, and then how they could reform the SEC anyway?
Yeah. Shoot, I wish I would have written it down, because I did see a name that was floating out there. And it wasn't Hester Pierce. It wasn't anybody that we thought it may be. It was somebody different that would probably be heading up the SEC. I do put a timetable on it, probably the end of December, the end of the year, a couple weeks before, whatever. Totally see him stepping down. He knows that he's not wanted. He doesn't want to be, affiliated. Obviously, when the roles change in January, he would be gone pretty much anyway. He would have somebody else appointed to that position. So I think he'll bow out somewhat gracefully. And I don't think it was Matt Gaetz either.
No, he was just saying Matt Gaetz is the attorney general. He was just assigned.
Gotcha.
Crazy stuff.
So I don't know who it'll be. Either way, it is bullish. It is very bullish for us. I think it will definitely be someone pro crypto. I think it will be somebody that, again, like we said last week, isn't going to be throwing cases at anybody and everybody without some sort of proof. I don't think, the whole thing about this administration, one of them anyway, is to be as efficient as possible, right? Let's not waste a bunch of tax dollars on corrupt cases that basically they're not worth it. They're baseless facts from the start, just to try and get extortion money out of some of these crypto. We want the regulations to help facilitate the companies that do want to start here. It's one of the big things that Trump's always been a fan of, is starting business here in the United States. So I do see some positive regulation coming out to where we can get some of that, right? We can start building some good businesses, and hopefully, that will carry on even down the road, once people understand that it is good. It's good for technology. It's good for the economy. It's good for, maybe not for the banksters, but at this point, those people need to kind of share the wealth and expand on the different types of money out there. So I think it's good. I hope that there is a board appointed, and not just a chairman. But we'll see. I think we'll have somebody favorable as the chairman anyway, if that's the way they decide to roll.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Another angle of this is, so Trump is already talking about like having a pro crypto cabinet. And again, people have been comparing his cabinet picks the last week to like watching the NFL draft and stuff like that, which is kind of cool to see. We saw Matt Gaetz today. We saw Tulsi Gabbard. There's been all kinds of different announcements. But to these points, and Elon obviously already being a crypto guy, officially does actually launch the Department of Government Efficiency, aka Doge. Which what's funny is like that is like a perfect name for what the department is anyway, and he was just able to fit the Doge acronym in there. I mean, like, my God, who would have thought like that we literally now have like a government agency that's headed up by Elon Musk that is the acronym of a top 10 crypto token that he is.
Well, behind. And we have to kind of show this too. There's the Doge chart since election day as well. Just kind of fitting, right? That people were front running it. Right here's the fifth. So yeah, it's done a nice little where are we at here? It's done a little 185% increase, almost a 2x since election.
Yeah.
So started at about 14, 15 cents roughly. And, it's all the way up to 40 cents today.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. It's just crazy that this is happening. I mean, like, we have crypto pretty much front and center. I mean, obviously there's other issues in the world, more important things that Trump has to deal with and stuff like that. But crypto is an important one. And I mean, we are seeing massive representation of it. I mean, stuff is it's just crazy how this is panning out. Like we were saying last week, the good news, the bullishness is just insane what's been rolling in right now. Yeah. So any final thoughts on the
just lots of good changes across the board. I mean, not overly familiar with the whole Rick Scott thing as far as politics go, why people aren't supporting him. I know you saw there's a large list of people that blocked that decision. So hopefully he's taking notes, and I think that's who he kind of appointed to the Speaker of the House, but I believe, right?
I don't even know. As soon as you said Rick Scott, I was like, what is he talking about right now? So this is something I apparently missed. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there was a lot of people that blocked. I think that's who he wanted originally as that person in charge, but he didn't get the votes for the Speaker. Yeah. So.
Well, I do think overall, I mean, his cabinet picks, just by taking the temperature of like MAGA type Republicans versus neocon people versus just normal people, whatever. I think people are generally content with what he's been doing, and, Trump even admitted himself on Rogan a couple of weeks ago that he didn't know what he was doing in 2016 with appointing people, was listening to different people and letting them influence him. And now he seems to have a much better idea of how he wants to get this stuff appointed right out of the gate. Oh, Senate Majority Leader. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what it was. The one critique that I did hear earlier today was that he did appoint Elon and Vivek both to the efficiency thing. And someone had asked, well, how efficient is that to appoint two people?
It was Elizabeth Warren. Who else?
That's where I saw it then. Yeah, of course. Pocahontas herself. So anyway,
very.
What are you gonna do? You're not gonna make everybody happy. They're gonna second guess and try and critique every little thing at this point. So it's all right. Yeah, is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure who's out there really voting for Elizabeth Warren still, but somehow she just won an election again. So what are you going to do?
Well, hopefully we get some term limits into place, which I know is one of the things that he wants to do as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we shall see. If you guys are enjoying the stream so far, do us a favor. I'm looking here. We got almost 100 people watching and 29 likes. That's kind of like the hex-EHEX ratio. So do us a favor and smash the like if you're enjoying the stream. Help support us, help support real DeFi and this ecosystem. Push us up in the algorithm so more people get the message of PulseChain here in this bull market. We appreciate you guys being here for sure. Chats have been awesome the last few weeks. Let's look. I guess we can touch on this real quick because it was a little spicy what happened the other day. This is the final kind of government thing that we can talk about. But the not so big piece of news after the election last week was the FOMC meeting the day after. There was pretty much 100% chance. Everybody knew that they were going to cut interest rates by 25 points again. That's exactly what happened. The more interesting thing, though, as usual with these, is something that happens in Jerome Powell's kind of rhetoric and speech after it. And while I didn't pay much attention to every, all the nuances of what he said about the market and inflation, which we actually got inflation data in today, and it came in a little bit higher than they expected at 2.6%. Just kick that can down the road again, boys. I don't think that's coming back. But an interesting question was posed to Jerome Powell. You're actually the one who sent it to me when it happened, Ewok. And it was somebody asking him if Trump would ask Powell to leave, would he? And he just simply said no. Keep in mind, of course, Powell is a liberal, Democrat, and he's been acting in their best interests over the years. So this is another one where I don't fully know. I mean, the Fed is like their own little mafia. I mean, I don't know what Trump really, in terms of, buttons he can just push to remove somebody. I don't know that that's possible as much as like politicking and doing little things to persuade or get somebody to move, kind of like we're talking with Gensler, could maybe happen. But the Fed runs all. I mean, the Fed is different. The SEC is just a little piddly shit organization that, no one really takes seriously. The Fed is, I mean, that's like the deep state, basically. Like these are the guys that control the money and control the world. So what did you make of that little exchange? And, it seems like Powell isn't interested in leaving anytime soon.
Well, he's not, because he's, obviously, as we know, the Fed is a private organization, not affiliated with the government at all. However, they were created by an act of Congress, and they can be removed by an act of Congress as well. That is one of the things that I did learn, because I was curious as to how would that play out? How would it have to play out for somebody to be reappointed, or a different person placed as the Fed chairman or whatever it is? They could completely do away with the Fed. Now, that'll never happen. Obviously, as you said, deep state is very deep. And they do control pretty much everything. So unless a weird act of Congress would come in and say, we no longer want the Fed, it could be done. But it would have to go that route. So, I'm not surprised by his comment. He's feels very safe with where he's at, because of, again, what it would take to get him reappointed or out of there. But I think if with the right people in place, they are talking about ending a lot of taxes. They're talking about ending the overtime tax and the tax on tips and things like that. I think the Fed needs less power. I really do think that something needs to change. And, there are so many things on Trump's docket list of things to do, but it would be one of the best things, I think, for our country to go back to a world without the Federal Reserve, back to Hexgirl just said it, going back to sound money. It's
I got it. There you go.
It would take care of a lot of problems and a lot of things. Unfortunately, the world is run by very, very wealthy people who we may or may not know their names. But that's just how the world works in the central banks. So it would be a very tough pass. But, now's the time to do it, right? This administration.
Yeah. Now would be a better time than ever if they can actually get that done. But they just seem, I think this is a group that it just seems like is not going to go away, obviously. So we'll see how things go with that. I'm sure that, in terms of what the Fed are going to continue to do as we go into 2025, though, we figure to continue to see interest rate cuts. I forget, I think their next meeting is in January. I think it's it's actually mid-December, my fault. So they do have another one before the end of the year. So we'll see what it is that they do at that time. But yeah, that's where we're at with the Fed right now. Jerome Powell says he's not going anywhere anytime soon. So we'll see how things kind of pan out there. Yep. This is a really interesting topic that we definitely have to talk about. So this has been a big thing within the PulseChain ecosystem, Hex, all this stuff over the last week. And that is what to make of some Hex OG whales that are suddenly coming back into the ecosystem. And when we say suddenly coming back, what do we mean by that? Well, they may have really been here the whole time. They're still holding tokens and stuff like that. But I guess what we mean in this sense is like a visible, seeing them on Twitter again, seeing them in spaces, maybe on videos, streams, stuff like that. Obviously, we're mainly talking about Rock'em Rochelle, which is a name that like many people watching may not even know, actually, because you got to remember with crypto cycles, things can change so drastically. Like it's a completely different market seemingly. And a lot of people don't know some of these names from the last cycle. Maybe they're not familiar with the Highest of Stakes Hex movie and stuff because he was a part of that. But he's been back recently. And you and I both just checked a stream out with like him, brother KG from Internet Money, Lit was on there. I think I'm missing another somewhat big person, but
Scuba Steve.
Oh yeah, Scuba Steve, who apparently is in kind of close quarters with Rockham. But so they were all on there for like a 3-hour stream last week. Rockham shared like his opinions on what he thought this ecosystem was going to do in a time frame, which I'll get to in a little bit. But he's been the main one. But we've seen people as the market has started to turn, and it seems like it's safe to come out and play again, kind of. And crypto is about to be accepted by people. Trump wins the election. You're seeing people kind of come out of the woodwork, and I don't mean. This is a guy that's obviously bought the Hex ecosystem and everything over the last few years, but we're talking all kinds of people are going to be coming out of the woodwork in the bull market, which we're going to kind of get to. But what do you make of OGs kind of coming back and the timing of it, Ewok? And specifically, I do want to ask you about Rockham Rochelle, because whether you have known who this guy is or you don't, and you're just like, hey, I'm just into PulseChain, I know what Hex is, I bought this stuff, but I don't know all these personalities from the last bull market other than the ones like Crypto Coffee and different people that have stuck around and always been a face. But kind of tell everybody a little bit about Rockham Rochelle. We know he's like a pretty big mega whale. And I have seen really dissenting opinions of him strongly going in either direction since he's come back. I mean, very strongly in both directions. So interesting. So I'm not necessarily asking like your personal opinion, but if you could lay out why we're seeing that and tell us a little bit about him, though.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you have to go the whole way back to the beginning. Knowing a little bit about his background when he came into this community, he was part of what they called, his company was called Overwatch Partners. They are an investment type company. And when Hex launched, he did invest quite heavily, made some big bucks, right in there early. With the adoption amplifier, they got in with some large sums. It was found out that one of the wallets that were used, obviously we have a bunch of wallet watchers. One of the wallets that was used to purchase some of this was also a wallet that was involved in a scam back in the day called Substratum. There was a token that was released. People didn't. I don't know the backstory on it, but a lot of people lost a lot of money. And it was funny because one of the wallets that was originally investing was tied to one of those Substratum wallets that ended up on the good side of things. That was one of the projects that he was involved with. So I think if you look, there are places, I'm not going to dox his real name, but his real name's not Rockham, but he goes by that anyway. There are sources out there. If you want to find it, you can. Either way, made a bunch of money, sold it, was one of the first people that I think purchased a Lamborghini, got the Hexagon license plate and all that good stuff. He's in business, whatever. It's his company. They took profits and he made some money. People, number one, don't like that. Obviously when they're trying to make money and people take profits, that's, people get upset. My opinion is it's your money. You can kind of do with it what you want. What I don't like is people that talk out of both sides of their mouth, right? They're going to say that they're going to do one thing. Meanwhile, in the background, they're doing a completely different, right? Yeah. So I do know that there was several many $1 million that were sacrificed then again from Rackham and some other partners, namely some business partners from Saudi Arabia. One of the big things that happened is when Richard went on his marketing ploy, the buying all the crazy stuff and spending money. It pissed a lot of people off, right? It pissed investors off. And I do remember a threat, so to speak, that was on Twitter, where Rockham, in fact, I think I had it pulled up.
Well, it's making its rounds. I mean, if you've kind of just been on, not just you, but I'm just kind of telling everybody, if you've been on Twitter the last couple of days, you likely have seen this somewhere. For the people that are arguing about, is this a good guy? Is he altruistic? Yeah, here's what's been shown.
Yeah, and Richard made a comment after, like I said, after the marketing. Pro tip: when humility pays better, I'm good at it. Currently pay as shit. And basically what he was saying is, you know, be, being that way isn't good. You got to
Mhm.
do the extravagant spending and the flashiness and stuff like that to get eyes on you. And he was right. People don't like it. A lot of people don't like it. But he knows what type of marketing gets eyes and gets viewers and gets subscribers, and that's all he was trying to do. And Rockham replied, bull crap. You have serious issues going on, and it's now
Whoa.
what was that?
Is that was that your
Anyway,
phone?
yeah, it was a work number. I have it
Okay.
set to oh
There you go.
no, because it's never good.
That
But
was,
anyway,
Remember, Walking in the Sand. I think that's that song. Anyway, go ahead.
Richard, I'm telling you right here and now, you compromise my money, my partners, my Saudi friends, you're going to answer for it. So, there's threats right there.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So there's just so many things about it. And now I feel bad for him because he says he went through a divorce. The last 2 years have been kind of ugly. Well, whatever. Everybody has their things, right? And that's why he claimed that he was gone for 2 years. Really, it was because I think there was a product where a lot of people that invested were saying, "Where's our money? What's going on?" And they lost a lot of faith, because they invested through Rockham, and he put money in the sacrifice pool. Anyway, whatever. I think he was taking a lot of heat as well when things didn't come out as originally intended, and who knows what kind of weight that put on his relationships. But anyway, he claims he's back, and says again that one of the last things that I saw was he's talking up all these things. He's talking up HOA. He's talking up all these different community, all these little things that I should have saved it because there were a lot of tokens listed that he was saying that he was buying, right? And that's when the huge red flag went up for me. All right, is this guy buttering up to all these communities because he really is buying them and he thinks they're good deals, or is he kind of trying to get back into good graces with everybody so that he can launch something and make some money off of people because they now trust him and believe that he's buying their bags too, right? So that was one of the things that kind of concerned me about this recent one. And you have to remember, at this juncture of the bull market, there are always going to be people that lie, cheat, steal, try and get you to invest in things that they have. They'll come out of nowhere with these things, and it happens. There are going to be some good things that come out, don't get me wrong, but the odds are anybody that comes out of the woodwork now trying to get you to buy something or invest in something right before the bull market, beware. Just be very, very cautious, and hang on to your money. It's going to do better in your hands than theirs. So that's where I stand with it. Just proceed with caution. I don't know what his intentions are. I don't know. I saw somebody mentioning that a lot of his things were removed from the Highest of Stakes movie. They claim, or what I saw was they claim that was kind of, it just the way it worked out, that they had to cut a lot of things to make it. And he was more focused on being one of the executive producers or whatever it was. And either way, just be careful. I don't know what his intentions are. I hope that he's a benevolent whale. But again, people will say that they're doing one thing and do another completely opposite while talking a good game. So
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows?
It is very interesting because again, I'm seeing people that, I just know from this community from, multiple different just that have come from multiple different opinions about other things, and a lot of them have surprising takes back and forth on this guy. It's just very interesting for me to see. And for what it's worth, knowing whatever we do know about him in that spaces the other day, somebody basically directly asked him, like, what are your expectations for this ecosystem and in what kind of time frame? And he basically said a 250x for Pulse from today within 16 months. So, I mean, that would be by first quarter, of course, of 2026. And I mean, if you're not happy with it, I don't know where he's getting that from or anything, but if you're not happy with the 250x, I would say that you've made massive mistakes with what you're investing.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows? Do you have much? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm gonna. I mean, do you have much of an opinion on him yourself, or is it just kind of what you said already? Is it just like with anybody that kind of comes back out of nowhere just to be careful of intentions,
Yeah, no, I mean, this is kind of how I feel. I'll welcome him back, but I'm not going to invest in any of his projects if he comes out with any. I will be very cautious. Anytime a whale is in the ecosystem that has that type of influential friends, you got to welcome it, but again, watch what people do, not what they say. And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest advice that I can give. I don't personally have an opinion one way or another. I know there are people out there that are friends with him. I think RG and he are good friends. Some people don't trust RG. So, I mean, everybody has an opinion of everybody. They've never done anything to me personally. So, I'm one of those type of people where, I've got nothing good or bad to say, in the way of him being back. My opinion is that whales are good, as long as they're benevolent whales. But when you have, I think he said something about every time it went up a certain percentage, it was another $1 billion in his account.
I did hear him say that. Yeah.
That's how much he has. Now, there isn't that type of liquidity, right? I mean, he's not going to be able to exit. So it's in his best interest to stay for a long time and be one of those benevolent type people. Pull profits if there are other ways to pull profits, whether you set single-sided liquidity or even use like a liquid loans type thing where, so you over collateralize by 10%. Well, 10% is probably going to be better than a market sell, right? Mm-hmm. At those type of levels, if you're talking $1 million, $2 million, $5 billion, if you over collateralize by 10%, it's way better than trying to hit a market sell on something like that with liquidity that can't handle it. So there are ways for him to exit, but I mean, I think it would be in his best interest to stick around and watch it grow. I think he believes in it. I hope he does. But we'll have to see how he handles it and what he does. Like I said, he's said that he's going to do one thing, but you got to hold him to it.
Yeah. And to that point, I guess we can just tackle this here because you wanted to talk about this too. Not that it goes totally hand in hand, but just a general caution to people about anyone that comes out with anything when this bull market is popping off, because there's going to be more and more like honeypots, little things out of nowhere. And I mean, even if you're here watching this right now, you're probably still, I mean, you're not really retail because they're still not totally here yet. So, I mean, You may be a little bit wiser than the people that are going to be coming deep into 2025. But just for example, and I'll throw this one out there, but people are calling her the new Pulse Latina. You didn't actually know about this the other day, so I had to send it to you. But there's a new girl out there, this one being a blonde. What the hell is her name? Damn it, I didn't write it down. It's like, somebody in the comments will probably know. It's like Bella Pulse or Crypto Bella, I think. I think it's Crypto Bella. Cute blonde girl, not gonna lie. But she's out of nowhere talking about PulseChain and stuff like that, and making a video about how to, or just like what PulseChain is and stuff. And of course, it gets like 400 likes. I don't know anything about her. I don't know if it's legit, a paid actor, or whatever. But of course, all the comments are just like, "Hey, we have our eyes on you if you try to launch anything." Blah blah blah. Not threatening her, but just like, we know how this goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's definitely something to look out for. And maybe you could even just talk, Ewok, just about like, I mean, obviously, this was really the Wild West a couple of years back or 2 cycles ago. But I mean, some of the things and what they look like that do pop up. I mean, we're just talking about whales coming back, but I mean, literal, actual scams that do pop up to watch out for in the bull market. I mean, talk about some of the landmines that you've seen before and stuff like that.
Well, they're getting crafty. As time evolves, there are things out there that have links. Somebody claimed that Ben BitBoy had put out some sort of link to something
I saw
that was, it had a Trojan horse virus or whatever it was that was it wiped people's wallets. So just, the best thing I can tell you is to try and get a computer. If you can't do the whole hardware wallet thing, at the very least, to get another computer and only use it for your crypto stuff. If you're going to surf and you're going to check things out and you're going to get another computer for that, like, don't even affiliate them, because there are keyloggers and different types of things out there. One of the most common is the send me one, I'll send you 2 back. Right. Well, that's as old as they come. But for new people, they don't know any better. They see a live stream with Elon or somebody famous or Vitalik or somebody having a stream that's a replay of something, and you look at the wallets and there's people in there for, sending money to it, and they take it. Like, you don't get anything back. So be careful of those. Be careful of the emails from Coinbase saying, hey, this transaction, because most people do have a Coinbase, and you'll get an email that from them stating that someone's trying to take money from your account. And you click on something and it's either a keylogger or something that's asking you to enter your seed phrases or something like that. It's all a scam. Like, don't listen to any of it. Look at your account. First of all, you shouldn't have a bunch of money in your Coinbase anyway. I mean, that's just rule number 1 is you don't keep stuff on exchanges. But if you do, just be very, very cautious of do not put your seed phrase into anything. I know a lot of people have heard this before, but if we save one person, that works, right? I'm happy. So there are all kind of honeypots. Yeah, it's basically you'll see this this game where everybody gets in and it's kind of like who can hold it the longest type thing. Most of those don't work either. They're it's like a honeypot type deal with a tax. It's a tax token that they don't have anything other than what was the proof of weekends. That was one of the very first ones that came out. Well, they're still recycling a lot of these. So, you'll start to see these things coming around, and it looks great, and somebody spends a lot of money to market it. And it's a scam, so be happy where you're at, guys. You've all put, if you've been following us for any period of time, we know we've been preaching the DCA, be patient, slowly but surely accumulate your position. And most of you should be in pretty good shape by now if you've been following along. So now's the time where people will come out and try and take advantage of it, and just be careful. Be very, very careful out there.
Something I try to do sometimes to make me take the security thing even more seriously is like, look at your portfolio now if you're not really happy with where it is now, but you hope you will be by the end of the bull market. Well, just imagine it even like 25x or so from where it is right now, and imagine compromising that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just by playing around, going to a new DEX or not verifying the DEX that you're connecting to. I think that's the main thing that you need to watch out
Yep.
for. And I do remember those streams, like, I could totally see. I'm sure people get scammed by them. I remember it was Elon Musk, Kathy Wood, and
Yeah.
Jack Dorsey were the ones that I would always see last cycle, and I could always tell like something is fishy here. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, so you got to be very, very careful of that.
Be vigilant. Be very, very vigilant.
Very much so, yeah. Smash the like for us, guys, if you're still here enjoying the stream. We got an interesting topic here now. So we mentioned this to start the show. What cycle is this reminding you more of right now, Ewok? Because as this 24-25 cycle gets going, so we, resetting all this bullish shit, we've got Trump being elected on a dime, like right exactly on schedule. So many people calling for November for Bitcoin to start really pumping, and boom, right in line with a 4-year cycle. The minute Trump gets elected, everything just perfect, exactly what you want to see from Bitcoin. And 2017 was very unique. The last two cycles are very different because 2017, there really wasn't this big crypto infrastructure built out. I mean, like Coinbase was even kind of a new thing. I remember before, there isn't even a Coinbase Pro now, I don't think, but there was GDAX, I think, if you recall, with Coinbase, and exchanges were still being built out at that time. In 2017, we didn't really have DEXs yet that were good or anything. Of course, there was a big BitConnect scam, which you're very familiar with. Just a lot of Wild West insane things in 2017. But we did see Bitcoin go parabolic in November and December of that year, before kind of crashing down late and or sometime in 2018. So we saw it, as you mentioned earlier in the show, Bitcoin go up to 20K all of a sudden in December of 2017. Then 2021, you see a much more mature market. You see the invention of Uniswap and all these amazing DeFi protocols. You see like Link with an Oracle. Hex obviously is invented and does a 10,000x from 2019 to 2021. All these amazing DeFi platforms. Phantom was an interesting one. All these different things and stuff popping off. You saw Bitcoin kind of do the double top in 2021 of hitting 65 to 70K 2 times. And it was just a different vibe. And now here we are again, still trying to really define what this cycle is all about. And that's another conversation we could have either next week or maybe later. Is it a meme coin cycle? What is the big narrative here? Is it cults making a comeback? People talking about that, all these different things. But what do you, so far, not that we're that deep into it to know yet, but do you compare this more to 2017 or 2021 right now? Because right now we're just seeing Bitcoin pop off. We don't have the big DeFi summer. It's all about DeFi, like this huge innovation. We're not really seeing that necessarily this time around. So what is this reminiscent of to you more so right now?
Well, it feels like 2017. However, you mentioned that a lot of things weren't built out. Like we are so far advanced from where we were then. But I guess the feeling, right? Now 2017 is when I got in. So I don't remember. Obviously, I didn't wait through a bear market to get this feeling. So for me, I do remember how it kind of came into play in 2020, and things got heated up and started taking off, right? So that was my first through the bear market into the following bull. I think the run up though reminds me of 2017, how it just every time you turn around, it was going higher and higher and higher. I don't think 2020 was like that a whole lot. 2021 ish. So yeah, it's hard to compare them because they all have their differences, and like like I said, they we've had so much advancement. So what will the narrative be? You know, that'll be the question that we just kind of have to wait and see. I hope we see a cultish type thing, and that is the narrative where community takes over. The ones with the big communities are the ones that have the loudest voices. I don't know of protocols that are being developed right now. And, you know, when you get some big advancements like the Uniswaps and the peer-to-peer stuff, things kind of get built. So you get those advancements, and then the next cycle, things kind of get built out on those, right? So you're not looking for a brand new technology. You don't have a brand new technology, just kind of build outs. Maybe we see that type of thing in the next cycle. And this is the cycle where community is really what matters. You know, it's the people that come together and yell the loudest are the ones that do get some of the biggest gains. You know, memes had their play. Even, you know, you go back the whole way to even 2017, CryptoKitties was one of the first memes that were out there. Now they were NFT type things, but I still consider them meme-ish, right? In that sense, where, you know, then you start getting tokens that really don't mean anything. they're just a token, and you know, it's the people that yell the loudest. So I think the community definitely will rule this cycle. I haven't heard of anything crazy technology wise coming out where this is the new hot thing. And even if it were, I would be skeptical again, you know, and I can see why people were so skeptical of Hex, right? When something like that comes out, people stay away, right? They know what works, and it is a risky play. Luckily, I had followed Richard into the whole thing in the building process and saw how it all kind of came together. Haven't been really following anybody else like that is behind something with that much passion and a project that's about to launch. So I don't know. We'll see. The price, like I said, though, reminds me of 2017, but it's got more of a it's a combination of both, I think. That's the best answer I can give.
That's
you.
A cop-out answer, right?
Well, it is, but it's the best of both. You got a little bit of this part and a little bit of that part, and a lot of advancements. So
I think you're right. And any narrative that people have tried to assign other than the memes, like the memes have really been like what's been happening. So like if you're arguing that, I mean, you're kind of just missing the boat, I think. But in terms of anything else where people are like, oh yeah, it's the AI stuff. No, man, it's the real world assets. It's like those are two things that have nothing to do with crypto. You know what I mean? Like DeFi was an innovation for crypto. Like that was, you know, that was specifically for that, which is why it took off and was so absolutely crazy. With the AI shit and with literally real world assets, I mean, you're literally talking about stuff that really you're forcing into the crypto space. It doesn't really have anything to do with it. Slap AI on the name or real estate or whatever the fuck, and, you know, just say that it has to do with crypto. But, you know, I guess we can kind of just put this in with this conversation because I think we touched on this for a minute last week, but I'm really intrigued with this Murad guy, the long-haired, like kind of Uber geek that looks like he would be out of like, I don't know, some kind of geekdom type movie. Is a good follow on Twitter, and I know I sent you some of his stuff. And I think he is nailing it on the head. I mean, I think he's not necessarily with like the memes that he's saying to buy. I mean, I'm not as interested in that, but I think he's hitting the nail on the head. This is something that Sami has been talking about for a while, is the whole people are getting hip to the VC-backed layer one, whatever the project is. But either way, a VC-backed seed rounds, we're all going to dump on your head later, billions and billions in dollars of market cap. You stand no chance to make any gains, all that stuff. People are done with it. Now it's like, where can I get a lottery ticket or get in with what you just said, one of these cult-like communities that we are seeing perform? Like that, yes, there's plenty of rugs out there. Just go on Solana any given day. But I mean, there are sticky memes that are doing really well, have done really well, new ones that are popping up that are doing well and figure to do well as you get into the bull market. Like, people want to get involved with smaller market caps that have a good sticky community. And it's we're at the point where like memes have been validated. It's not like a thing anymore. Like, oh, you're going to go in there and buy that Pika coin or whatever. It's like, do you know what this thing has done? Do you know what this thing is capable of doing? People like to represent their interests on the blockchain, like in their, it's their monetary votes for that. Like, this is something I'm interested in. This is my way of representing that, sacrificing for it, if you will, whatever you want to call it, buying something to represent my interests and what I believe in on the blockchain. And people are doing it and there's no stopping it. So why fight it? And that's what Murad's been talking about, is just that's what people want to do. And that's what's happening right now. Now, what I don't really get with him is why his top 10 list of like best memes to invest in this cycle are all pretty damn bloated. Like, they're all already hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, I'll tell you why when you're done.
Well, my final point was just that. Now, his thesis is like, oh, they're going to go to billions and stuff, and they're all still going to do 100x. That's fine, but I PulseChain, we know all these great memes that are on a very small, blockchain that hasn't broken out yet. If you want to go play with Ethereum, Solana bloated coins, that's fine, but I don't feel as safe doing that. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, the reason is, and I've found out recently that he gets allotted a major portion of these tokens too. So that's why he talks about them. So you do have to be careful of that. They do give influencers a large sum, whether there's a VC or not. These guys are getting a large sum of tokens, and they will dump them on your head. So it's like when BitBoy goes, the 10 best cryptos to invest in, or the 5 best tokens, every time there's one of those. And this guy is no different. It's because somebody has paid him a large allocation to talk about them. And he will do a slow dump on your head. I saw somebody in the chat say something very similar. Yeah, Liberty to death.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so instead of a slow, steady VC dump, you buy a VC insider meme coin that's a quick pump and dump on your head, and that's what a lot of these turn out to be. He nailed it on the head. So, again, I think it goes back to community. I think when you have a large number of community all talking the same thing, they're not all going to do the same thing, right? I mean, they're not all communicating on, it's too hard to coordinate a pump and dump like that. But when you have one individual, like, what's his name, Murad or whatever, one individual like that can have a lot of influence over things, and they're his, right? He can do with them what he wants, and he can do it at will. But when you follow a community into a situation or a coin, something like that, it's a lot harder to herd cats than it is one person. So, I just, again, it's one of those things to be very cautious of. Now, he does bring up a good point. People do want that lottery ticket, the dopamine hit of finding something that's going to run like crazy very quickly. But again, you got to be leery of those type of people where they are in it just to pump and dump, and they got paid to talk about it. So
it is interesting to me.
Cautious.
Yeah, and it is interesting to me that PulseChain isn't on his radar, because it's like, here's an entire ecosystem bootstrapped from the ground up in the complete inverted way of all these things that you supposedly hate.
It made me think why he's not is because we're not paying him. Nobody from PulseChain is giving people money to talk about things. We will do it ourselves, right? That's kind of the mentality, and that's why a lot of people gatekeep us. Richard was never willing to give a bunch of allocation for an exchange. He was never going to pay people to have him on his show. He was never going to do that. And I feel that the community has kind of responded the same way. They did I know they did to get on, what was it, OKX. I think there was a allocation that was put together by many people to
Wasn't
get
that? I
listed.
think that was MEXC. I don't know,
Or
MEXC
MEXC,
or
yes,
yeah, yeah,
MEXC.
yeah.
But it is what it is, and um, I think that's one of the reasons why we don't get talked about is because we don't pay people.
Yeah.
We're not going to give them allocations to talk about us. We're gonna market it, and we're gonna do it ourselves, and that's just how it goes.
So that was an absolutely perfect transition by you. And somebody just, I was intrigued by this comment. We could probably wrap up with this tonight. Is Arrowpoint says, did y'all talk about Pepe listing yet? What if our H coins get listed after the SEC, after SEC loses the case? So, Ewok, you just perfectly exemplified kind of like why. Richard's case against exchanges and stuff like that. But yeah, to his point, the news there that Coinbase listed Pepe today with like 4 or 5 other tokens, Pepe being one of them, which I found interesting. And yeah, we've been seeing I've been seeing Hexo lobbying all throughout Twitter about Hex and Pulse being listed somewhere or on Binance and stuff. That's been we've had this discussion so many times, and it's the age-old argument about like, no, we're decentralized. We don't do that. Richard fired off a bunch of tweets months ago that we went over about him shitting all over centralized exchanges, how horrible they are. It's expensive to get on there, all that stuff.
Yeah.
There have been people in favor of both. You just talked about it. Crypto Coffee and some other people spearheaded getting a listing on MEXC. And that's when Richard actually fired off those tweets right around that time, which was an interesting time. But yeah, it's the oldest argument of like, well, you're sacrificing the principles basically for potentially more growth by letting these exchanges have an allotment to have people maybe buy Pulse so they can get right into the ecosystem. It's been so back and forth. But what do you make of this? What do you feel about the philosophy overall? And what do you make of his question? Because I personally, again, I'm going to say I don't think the SEC result or anything to do with the SEC will have anything to do with that happening.
No.
What's going to happen is going to happen, and they're kind of inconsequential. But I don't know. I want your answer on this. Do you think that they do get listed at some point, or what may happen there?
I think at some point, I think longevity will be in our favor. Again, I think the only way it happens is a couple cycles in, and we're still here, and we're still yelling loud, and there are still people that are buying it and staking it. Obviously, you can't stake on exchanges, but I think the time kind of does us our own favor, and that's all it's got to be. I don't want to bow down, and I think that's one of the reasons why Richard kind of feels that way too. No one probably paid to get Doge listed. No one paid to get ETH or Bitcoin listed. These things just kind of happened automatically over time, and once you kind of earn that right, and I think that's probably what happened with Pepe. I don't know of who's in charge. I mean, I don't know. Is there really somebody in charge of Pepe, or did they just finally listed it because it's still here, type of thing? And I think that's kind of what happens to us. I think these guys may eventually just get tired of hearing from us and list them, and then once that happens, it'll kind of domino to the other ones. One big one, whether it's Gemini or Lord forbid, I doubt it'll be Binance because they're one of the biggest gatekeepers of our stuff. Who knows? Maybe Richard winning the case will. Or how about this? Let's paint this picture. We win the SEC case. We create precedent moving forward that Coinbase can then use in their argument, and it wins them a case. Wouldn't that be funny if something like that happened? Yeah. And then they kind of give us a nod and say, here, we're going to list your stuff, because it potentially helped them. I mean, something like that. I could totally see something like that happening, as to where Coinbase does it. And then once Coinbase would list it, then all the other ones could open up as well. So you get Gemini, or at that point, Binance would do it, because they couldn't gatekeep the rankings anymore, because we're not on an official exchange. That just throws that whole thing out the window, where they would have to rank it properly. So that's what I see happening. That's what I see how it should play out, and would be the best way to play out. But you know, we did just fine, guys. We did a 10,000x with hex without anything, right? With just Uniswap. We made Uniswap the most popular DEX before it started to do all its other stuff, and then they shit on us. So it's just kind of the way it goes sometimes, where you are better off, and you do create. You know, nobody wants to hear it, nobody likes to hear it, but opportunity is before people know about it, and that's where we're still at. You know, it's still opportunity, and people just aren't seeing how undervalued these things are. If they could see the future, my guess is that they would be buying a lot more at these prices, because we may never see them again.
Yeah, it sounds like your point is basically, if it were to get listed, it would take something out of our power. Like, we're not ponying up, Richard's not ponying up.
Yeah,
it would be Coinbase like, oh, okay, hey, we'll just voluntarily do this based on this other thing happening. So I see where you're coming from. I do think it would have to be some kind of scenario like that, because Richard's certainly not going to ever be begging to be on an exchange. That's just not going to happen.
And Arrow Point does bring up, you know, what I was basically saying. I think this case could set precedent down the road. You know, people may finally understand and believe that Richard is doing this for all of crypto. It's not about him. It's not about, you know, yes, obviously he wants to cover his own ass. But it's he's hired a dream team of people to set precedent moving forward for a lot of things. And this could be paramount to, you know, the next several years, especially with the change of administration, where they back off completely in a lot of places. So could be very good. Could be very good for us moving forward.
Yep, I think so too. Well, this has been a terrific show. Things could not be more bullish right now. I mean, we just have stuff popping off left and right. Bitcoin hits a new all-time high of about 93K today. I think we're still in this little pullback right now, but that just might mean tomorrow it'll be at 96 or something like that. So we'll see. We're waiting for Ethereum to catch up. It is still November of 2024. So, I mean, you know, just because Pulse isn't where you want it to be at, or Ethereum isn't where we want it to be at, doesn't mean it's not going to. Those things are all still to come. Keep your eyes on the prize. I mean, really, this is not a time, and how anybody is finding it within them to be bearish or upset or pissy right now, I have no idea. I mean, what other confirmation do you need? Trump wins the election in a landslide, the Senate, the House, everything belongs to the Republicans. It's a whole fucking takeover. Like, we have that. Bitcoin is just soaring to new highs, right in line with the 4-year cycle. Ethereum's right at the bottom of its ratio to BTC, indicating that alts are at their lows, and this is like our last chance. And you're getting this great indicator from BTC saying, hey, it's time to get going, guys. We're about to go. You know, if you got money sitting around, I'm not going to tell you what to do with it, but if I had your money sitting around, it wouldn't be sitting around. It would already be back in the market in PulseChain right now. So,
And again, to those people saying, what, it's funny to see all this stuff happening and PulseChain's just sitting there. Well, this is what we're saying, guys. We said it earlier in the show. It trickles down. It's a trickle down type thing where one will run and then it goes to Ethereum and it will run and then it goes to alt and then it's our turn. So again, to your point, what you just said, if you've got money sitting on the sidelines and you're wondering why isn't PulseChain doing anything, well, it's not its time yet. That's the way it's been. That's the way it will probably be again. No guarantees or financial advice, but man, we are right there. Like it's about to trickle down, and you're going to see things starting to pop off. That if you miss the boat, you're going to kick yourself. Just watching it go up, and then you're going to be waiting for dips. You're going to wait for a dip that never happens.
Exactly. So,
yeah. Don't get caught with your pants down, man.
And I would encourage people to look around too. Look at some of these shit tokens from last cycle and where they are right now. For everybody that's like, oh, it's PulseChain's down. It's only PulseChain. Everything else is moving. Polygon is crap. It's at 40 cents or something like that. It was over $1 at some point earlier in this bear market. Okay.
Yeah.
It's at like 40 cents. Phantom's at like 80 cents. It was $3.60 last cycle. Polkadot, pure hot garbage. And you know that they're dumping on you all along the way as well. Cleveland Steamers left and right. So, you know,
Aave is another one. It was like 650.
Yeah.
It's down to what, 170 right now?
I think it might be lower than that even. Yeah.
I'm looking at it. It's 170.
Okay, that's higher than I would have thought. But yeah, all these tokens, like look at some of the tokens in the top 50, top 100. They are butchered from last bull market. And not only that, they're probably never going to those prices again. And you're getting dumped on along the way for sure. Okay. This feels like it's so dead because it's the inverse of what all those things do, you know. And if you've never heard of the magic carpet ride idea, I encourage you to check that one out as well. So
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we're going to wrap up. There's probably too many people in the chat to thank tonight, but Viper Styles, DJ Moon Boys, NJ Dub, Arrow Point, good questions, Liberty or Death, of course. We appreciate all of you guys. Wild SJ, we saw you in here earlier. Axis was here earlier. Tune in next week. We just talked to Axis. We'll have him on again next week for a really good show. But appreciate you guys. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like the video. We appreciate you being here. From Crypto Ewok, this has been Broke Boy Crypto. We'll catch you guys next week right here on the Creed of Crypto. See you guys.
See ya.